topic that I already see one guy asking in the comments. There was a Clinton, I think, asking. Let's see here. Who I saw that a minute ago. Nope. Michael saying, who are we going to trade for? Wide receiver. Listen, that's we got to talk about this. That's the rumor. The Giants are looking at wide receivers there. And there's Joe Schoen in the grocery store shopping for a wide receiver. Very nice. By the way, if you ask ChatGPT to make an image of Joe Schoen, that's literally what you get. Apparently, that's after multiple attempts to get one that looks like him. Looks nothing like him.
Circle.
Like him whatsoever. But I was like, let's have him go grocery shopping for receivers. So NFL insiders Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo both reported the Giants are actively calling around the league, exploring possibilities for available wide receivers. The big three, obviously, that most people are going to be talking about right now is Chris Olave, is going to be talked about. Jakobi Meyers is going to be talked about. Also hearing Jalen Waddle being talked about there. And, of course, Jeudy also. And it's intriguing because you have a couple different mixes. And I know a lot of people want like the biggest name. That's always what happens when trade talks. I want the biggest name. I want the big guy. Well, let me put it this way to you guys. The biggest guy, first off, is going to require the most draft capital. You're going to give up some draft capital to get him. That's just life. The second thing is you're going to have to pay him. So you may want Jalen Waddle. Well, Jalen Waddle, you're going to have to pay this man. And you're going to have to figure out, and granted, he works with Tyreek Hill, but you got to figure out how to get him to work also with Malik Nabors. And I'm not so sure that's the way I would go personally because of that. Like you're already paying a ton of money at this point to Slayton. You're paying eventually a ton of money to Nabors. You said a decent contract now, which is a top 10 pick there, but eventually you have to pay him a decent amount of money. And the salary, just to give you the salaries here. The way this contract was written with the Dolphins, there's a reason why he's available, guys. This is just his salaries here. Next year, $1.2 million base salary. The years after that, 23.4 and 25.7. Now, keep in mind, when you trade for him, you're taking on those base salaries.
That's his contract with the Dolphins?
That's his contract right now.
Why would the Dolphins even do that? What?
Because they probably thought that what they'd have to do is eventually get rid of Tyreek Hill. And then by getting rid of Tyreek Hill, now you have this option to go ahead and do that. They also added void year deals and everything. I don't even know how they're going to trade him, even, to be very frank with you. Because
you're saying next year he's worth how much?
So next year, this is over the cap, just to give you guys where this is coming from here. His base salary next year is $1.2 million. 23.4 the next year, 25.7, almost 0.8 the next. They backloaded the hell out of his contract. They even have 2 void years to get an extra $9-10 million onto it.
Yeah, it's
yeah, I don't want anything to do with that whatsoever. Like I'm good. Now, the other guy you got, of course, is I'm hearing more and more rumors, nothing substantiated. It's kind of like, hey, this would make sense. Is Jeudy. Now, Jeudy, on the other hand, has very inexpensive base salaries here. So it all depends on where you're at as far as, because again, I don't have access to all these contracts to see everything going on. I can just tell you what the base salary is, and I can go, okay, well, if we do this, this is where we're probably looking at here. There's also obviously incentives and stuff like that. But listen, I want nothing to do with Jeudy just based on play alone. Let me be very clear on that.
I was going to say his prime is past him, and he
had one good year last year. It's not even prime. He had one good year last year, and he got all soft when Steve Smith called him out a couple years ago. You're going to get soft when Steve Smith calls out. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have trouble in New York.
Yeah, big time.
I was
never a fan of Jeudy.
Yeah, so I'm good there. But I'll tell you this: he's got his cap space, his base salary is like $1.5 million. But even with prorated bonuses and stuff like that, I mean, again, I have to see exactly how the contracts are written. You're still not talking a lot of money for him. His cap numbers, as it stands right now, is, and again, it's hard to see exact who pays what way over the cap is at that point there. But his guaranteed salary is $6 million in 26. That's nothing. So, money-wise, that makes sense. But I want nothing to do with him just as a player.
Yeah.
So
That's El Paso.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the guy that I've been saying forever that I want. And I Rob, you can back me up on this one. I talked about this a couple of years ago when he was a free agent. Jakobi Meyers. That's the one that I would be interested in. 2 reasons. One, this is his last year of his deal. So after the end of this year, if you don't want him, you don't think he's a fit for what you want to do with Nabors and everything like that, then you're good. It's going to cost you not as much money to get him potentially because of the expiring contract. And if you want to bring him back, you bring him back. And he's not the guy who's going to cost you $20-30 million.
I'm also not really sold on him either. I mean,
I think he's the perfect number 2. With Nabors, he's a perfect number 2, honestly. Because
he might be
yards, and he's the guy who can be a legit number 2 option that can also step in and be a low-end number 1 if Nabors gets hurt again. Or if Nabors isn't Nabors next year, because you all know the first year coming back from an ACL, you're not always yourself. We have to sign him is the one thing. That's the one thing. And here's the key that I'm going to bring up too, and Anthony kind of beat me to the punch here. He said, I'd rather have Robinson than Meyers next year. And that's part of what you got to figure out, guys.
Yeah.
Robinson's going to be a free agent. You just signed Darius Slayton. You're not getting rid of Nabors. So if you pick up a guy and you want to keep him long-term, then what's going to happen is you're going to have to decide between him and Wan'Dale Robinson. But if you want to get a guy like Meyers for the year, you can do that at the end of the year, make your decision on who you want to resign. Meyers or Robinson. So
I'm going to put that in the maybe column because I'm not sold him as a player. I'm not sold him as giant long term. I'm not sold him even putting him on my fantasy football team. If you come up even DraftKings or doing one of those things, I look at that pass. He's a hard guy to follow. Yeah. Robson, you haven't seen the ceiling with Robson. You know what you got.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Darius Slayton's numbers. We're gonna have to keep him for 26. We can get rid of him very easily in 27. So if he doesn't start becoming the Slayton he was, let's be honest, he had a little off year. We thought it was Nabors. He's not having the greatest start to this year necessarily. Then we have that option to get rid of him after next year. Not get me wrong. I'm not looking to get rid of him. I've been a big fan of Slayton. I'm just trying to look at possible scenarios, if that makes sense. And the other guy, of course, is Chris Olave, who has had the injury issues. He probably has the highest ceiling of any of these guys potentially because he's been a guy that's been a number 1 receiver for New Orleans in a very struggling offense. Waddle, I think some of his stats are a little bit bloated because of the fact that he is number 2. He's not getting the top corner. That's going Tyreek Hill. At least it was until the injury, obviously.
Sometimes 2 of them.
But that's the truth of the matter at that point there. Even in college, he had people that were better than him as far as number 1 receivers. He was never the guy. Now, if you look at Chris Olave, he's got a very reasonable cap number this year. Next year, his base salary is $15.5 million. And that's his last year. So unless you go work out a long-term deal with him, that's a guy that you have to figure out cap space wise. This is my big thing on Meyers, why I like him. He can give you a temporary thing, and if you can get him cheap, let's say, for example, hypothetically, the Raiders call you up, and it's like, hey, give me a 5th-round pick. I just need to get rid of this guy because he doesn't want to be there. He already said he doesn't want to be there. Would you do it for that? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's what it would be as a 5th-round pick. I'm just throwing an example. I have no clue what they're going to ask. We have no way of knowing that. But if that's what it is, I would do that in a heartbeat. Have him for the year and then decide what I do at the end of the year.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm just not sold on him. Like, and it's just
1,000-yard receiver on crappy teams.
Yeah, because it's all garbage times when he's getting the ball. He doesn't. Majority of times when he's out there, you don't see him put up those points in the first half, or yards in the first half. It's when they're coming from behind. They obviously have to throw the ball constantly.
Yeah, I have to look at that specifically. I got to be honest with you because that's not a stat that I'm going to see there. I don't know if you got that from somewhere, if you just by watching, or if you got an actual stat up there. But yeah, that's.
I was by watching by putting that guy. I divorced that guy playing DraftKings. That's how I know.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I know you got it from somewhere, just didn't know where. But like I said, it's just one of those things where I'm looking at it right here. Here's his 25 stats so far, and I pulled up, and I'll be the first one to tell you this is because this is not something I plan on talking about. So it's on ChatGPT. So listen, there's some issues with ChatGPT stuff, obviously, but it is giving me the breakdown of where he's at. Somebody else has to check the validity of it because it's, that's not where else I would even look. So let me just type it in there real quick. 5 games this year, 10 catches in the first half, 15 in the second, 137 yards in the first half, 153 in the second. And he's got 6 first downs in each. So I mean, this year at least, they're pretty similar. Let me see. I'll have a deal last year for you too. But like I said, that's just. And you know what? Last year, 485 yards in the first half, 542 in the second half. He had more touchdowns in the first half. So maybe that's where you're thinking at that point. The touchdowns were definitely much higher. He had 3 in the first half, only 1 in the second. Otherwise, the numbers are pretty similar. Like I said, I just think.
Wait. Are you breaking that down by the year, the season?
This is the season last year.
No. Yeah, you got that too. I was talking about first half, second half of the game. I'm talking about first half numbers.
Sorry, yes. No, I mean the first half of the game compared to the second half.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. Sorry. I thought that's what you meant. Yeah. So like I said, he's got the more touchdowns. Then maybe that's where that thought process was coming from, what you saw, But catches wise, it's the same. And like I said, part of it is he's been on a crappy team. Like, how do I even know where to try? A guy literally had 1,000 yards last year on a crappy team. 800 yards 3 years in a row prior to that. And I think he's better than anybody we got right now. And like I said, I think the contract works. It's a matter of does the compensation work. He's the guy I would target in a heartbeat. 28 years old. So he's getting to where he's at the tail end of his prime, if that makes sense. And he's also a veteran receiver that can help him out some of these young kids that we're trying to get going too, including Nabors, by the way. Even though Nabors is a better receiver than him always, it doesn't mean you can't learn something from a savvy veteran.
You're not wrong. There's a reason why he's been in the NFL as long as he has been. As much as I hate him, he does put up numbers, but
yeah,
there's not everyone's going to be like D-Hop. He's going to play for 10 years. Even still, D-Hop's not what he was 10 years ago, but
neither am I.
Yeah.
I mean, the other option is, quite frankly, is let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask it where I kind of know the answer to it. I'm going to be that jerk. Do you think it hurt us not having any additional receivers on Thursday?
Oh, I never said it wouldn't.
No, but I'm saying, so maybe the thought process needs to be we look, but we don't need. You know what I mean? We don't have to run out, grab one, and overpay for one because we're trying to save Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's jobs.
Because the best time to shops when you don't need it, because that's when you find the best deals.
Yes. That's why I shop smart. Shop S-Smart.
S-Smart. You got that?
Yeah, that's where, like I said, that's where I would go personally. But like I said, we'll have to see. There's a couple options out there, and it all depends on what somebody wants to get and how bad they want to move them. And that's part of my theory with the whole Meyers thing is I feel like that's the guy that the Raiders would want to move him more than the Saints want to move Olave or the Dolphins want to move Waddle because it's an expiring deal. And let's be honest, the Raiders are going to have to be probably pretty active in free agency. So comp picks aren't going to be for them. So why not get something for a guy who doesn't want to be there, is not going to re-sign with you, and he's not good enough to warrant a franchise deal.
Yeah, and he's you got Sneaky Pete over there to start making some moves. So
yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens overall. But I just think that's where I would go look at it personally. But we'll see. There's a lot of options here, and like I said, one of those options is staying put, guys. And I have no problem with that personally. I would rather stay put than overpay, because
100%.
we're not winning a ring this year, guys. I hate to break it to you.
We've talked about this quite a few times about signing free agency, like once the league went down, like literally every week since.
Yeah,
and I have to start off saying, like, I want to sign him off the bat, like elevate little Jordan Humphries. Like we talked about that, and look how well he played. Like it's we need a big body receiver, something different.
And I will say this. I think, and again, I know people will probably disagree with me on this. This is fine. I don't think you always need a top flight receiver to win, guys. Like, I really look around the league at the teams that are succeeding at this point, the teams that have succeeded, and they don't necessarily have a top 10 receiver. Now, would they prefer one? Of course. Look what happened when the Patriots didn't have one for years. Then when I got Randy Moss, they were almost undefeated. Almost.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, like, you don't have to necessarily have that component, but it's a nice component to have. But imagine if Jaxson Dart succeeds without one, and then you throw Nabors back in the mix next year. Like that's where I'm at. Like, if somebody wants to give you, let's say, Jakobi Meyers, for example, and they want to give you a D3 pick, take a D3 pick for him, take him. It'll help the development of Jaxson Dart. It'll help some of the guys in the room, even Nabors in conversation. It'll help, obviously Wan'Dale Robinson, you're still trying to develop, Jalen Hyatt, who we've all given up on, but I assume the Giants haven't. Bo Collins, guys like that. Like, it helps having a savvy veteran. The Giants haven't had a savvy veteran really like that. Like, who's a savvy veteran in the wide receiver room? I mean, Grove's a good, wide receiver coach with a lot of experience. Don't get me wrong. I get it. The coach also is the guy who's supposed to train people. But
there's a difference between your coach and having, especially like these guys coming straight out of college. There's a difference between having a coach, your mentor, the guy that's like, and that dude that's on the sideline. Like, that's what coach said, but do this.
Yeah.
Just change this a little bit.
Yes. Like I said, we'll have to see what their theory is. But like I said, to me, that's where I'd be at. Is if you got the right move, make it. If you don't, then don't force it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Like the show? Of course you do, or you would have turned it off by now and not be hearing me. There are plenty of ways to support the show. YouTube is the best place to join us, and we offer memberships there with fun benefits like custom emojis and early access to video clips. Of course, there you can also send super chats and stickers to send one-time support payments. The best way to support the show is to buy these drunk idiots beers at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Along with one-time support payments, there are also monthly plans, so you can continue to help kill their livers each month. You can also show people that you are a goofball by visiting our store at 2giantgoofballs-shop.fourthwall.com. We got everything from shirts, hats, phone cases, funny candles, buttons, stickers, and even a 2 Giant Goofballs towel to dry off your goofballs. Of course, you can always support the show for free by simply hitting the like, subscribe, and share button wherever you are watching or listening to this. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps the show tremendously, and quite frankly, the goofballs suck at marketing and need your help to get the word out. Thank you for being part of the Goofball Army and for taking the time out to support the show.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.